pretty much can remember the imagery. Yes. So thank you so much, Brian. Thank you. So it is truly a joy to be back here. We feel very much at home. We were here March of last year, and we sincerely are hoping and praying that it doesn't happen just once a year anymore. We really do love the assembly here, the congregation. The last visit was such a huge blessing. And actually, I will tell you during this message some things that has inspired. So the place where I was a minister is actually not my own village. It was a place where I did the NYSC. The National Youth Service Corps is very similar to the American Peace Corps, and only nationally. And so I think that the American Peace Corps is one of the greatest gifts of the United States, both to the world and within this country. And so I'm very delighted because I know that Brian had been in the Peace Corps, and also Maureen here today. It's such a joy to see you. We first met just this past Thursday at the PBS special, which I think they told us that special will be out on Monday, tomorrow. So if you like watching PBS, feel free to tune in. And so it's based on some of our work with the children and adult groups, and visit to the Muncie prison and some other places around here to use art as therapy. So I'm so happy to see my friends, the Pecoras again. You guys really did connect the dot, and such a joy to see you and the children, and also people like Jordan. I think maybe she said, oh, I see, all right. So just they're all familiar faces, and so thank you from the bottom of our heart. So the painting you have already seen, and basically for me, sharing stories is based on that, using that media. As I said last year and earlier today, I describe art as frozen music. So whenever there is a visual interpretation of art, that there is the part of it that flows. So the reason I write musical theater is basically because in my creative mind, I'm unable to separate what is visual from what is musical or even speech, that they all come together. Some of us are better at using speech than others. Some of us are better at painting a picture than others, or singing, using music and other things like that. Some of us are just really great at with technology, kind of putting wires together or putting codes together. Some of us don't understand any of that at all. So it's the way we express ourselves. And for a good community, our community here, or the world at large, or even a good government, maybe, that leadership is about helping to find in each and every individual their given way of expression. A person's story is really what makes them uniquely human. And when we take away a person's story, it's, analogous to killing the person, because the inability, when you, I think the English word is stifle, when you prevent a person or a group of people from telling their stories, you are really taking life out of them, even if you don't do that physically. That's why it's really important to, always emphasize, time to time, that, listen to the stories of people that you are not familiar with. listen to other stories, know why they are who they are, and that, when we generalize things, it never ends up well. So she had mentioned about the honor I was given along with John Lennon. That was really, I mean, I didn't grow up listening to the Beatles. I didn't really know much about the man John Lennon until that award ceremony. And so they chose a song of Lennon's called Imagine. I think maybe some of us that are familiar with the Beatles or with John's music will be familiar with that. And they chose this very piece, this Firefly piece of mine, as a basis for egalitarian prowess in the world. What is it about our work, whether it's music or visual art, that kind of brings everyone together, that emphasizes the importance of going on this journey of life and building each other up. That was the way they described it then. So just to let you know, before that honor, because they had us there, of course, for John Lennon, it was posthumous because he had passed away since 1980 or 81. And so my head used to not be this big before the honor, but then after it grew exponentially. So because coming to find out about the man and his music, and I'm just like, why do they think my name should come side by side that of John Lennon? Still a mystery to me, but I do appreciate that they did that this was Global Citizens, which is associated with the United Nations. So I'm going to quote for you something that came up at the NYU. So the place where we did the lecture series for that award was the New York University. And so I came upon this quote, which I thought was very appropriate for what they were trying to point out in our works that relates to the subject of peace. So it's by Hugh of St. Victor, a man who lived in the medieval times, so very long ago, 1096 to 1141 BC, AD, sorry. And so a medieval figure, and just to understand why this quote, he was a man who was deeply affected by instability in his hometown. In other words, he went to study in the Abbey in Paris, and then there was some kind of war that happened. So he had to, move out of there to go to a different place to seek refuge. It's never easy when you lose your home. But I think that kind of brought him to this conclusion. And the quote is this. It says, "A person who loves their homeland is still a tender beginner. A person who loves every part of the art as if it were their native land has come a long way." And I like this. He says, "But only the person for whom the whole world has become a foreign land is truly mature." So when you are an immigrant, when you travel from a place where you grew up and you go to a whole different country, like I did, and you become an American citizen. So actually, it was the US State Department that kind of had me come and, granted me American citizen because of the engagement they were doing with is the mic okay? Okay.
It's the TV.
Oh, right.
It's broken.
But audio should.
All I can do is pray for the TV. I don't know. So good luck. Good luck with that. So, but the reality is that if you are an immigrant in a strange land, all these things go through your mind. Uh, First of all, in the spoken language, I speak 14 languages. The last language I learned is this English I'm speaking to you. I remember when I was learning English, I didn't like it much. However, I'm thankful that I learned it because that's why I got the ambassadorship. So, but when I speak English, I mean, now I think it's much better, but in the beginning, the accent, I mean, at least I suppose you can understand my speech a little bit, right? A little bit. Okay. So, but in the beginning, I had this deep accent, this deep Yoruba accent that I spoke English with. So you have that kind of barrier or a little bit of an obstacle. But thank goodness that I do speak English anyway. So you think in a different language. I still think in Yoruba. A lot of times I have to, stop myself whenever I'm speaking the English in order to not speak the wrong thing so that the way I speak it, the way it is in my brain. And the the famous story about that, Killer get embarrassed when I share it, was when I thought that the word "I'll kick your ass" only meant I'll kick your ass as in kick your donkey, that not ass as the American, meaning was. And yeah, that's a whole embarrassing story that happened in Indiana. But, so a lot of things happen to you like that when you are an immigrant. And, if you are coming from the Christian tradition, you know too that that's actually one of the things that the scripture says, to be kind to foreigners that come to your land, because the foreigner, at least at that time, that the foreigner is always afraid anyways that something bad is going to happen. You sit at the embassy in New York and you are wondering that maybe a bunch of people might come and, start asking you questions, and you say the wrong thing, and that might land you in trouble with the law and all. And so for this reason, that it's good to consider that we are all foreigners anyways. We are all strangers and orphans in this world. So if you have that, emblazoned in your heart and your mind, you see that you be kinder to people, whether they have, whether they are, how do you say, they have the legal document to be in your country or not. So because in that country that you think is yours, or that in that country that is yours, there was a time you weren't in that country. So if you were born, if you were ever born, and I think everyone was born in this world, that if you were ever given birth to, so there was a time you weren't there in that country. And so that to consider others the same way, whether they come, maybe they were born, they were given birth to when they came as adults or as children, but there was a time that they weren't here and now they are here. So just all kind of things like that. Because of all these things, that's why I really love what this Hugh of St. Victor says, because he's letting us know that, yeah, that it's good to love your homeland, to be patriotic, right? To be a patriot of Nigeria or the United States or whatever country that you come from. But that a person who then travels, like some of us, to many, many strange lands and consider everywhere they go to as a home, that it's also really beautiful. because it means that you care about the art, that you care about the world we live in. Make sense? But that the real beautiful thing or the perfect mindset is when you really do consider every place you go to in this world as a strange land, including your home, so that you consider yourself a stranger in every place you go to. So when I listen to that song by John Lennon, and I think he starts off with something like, imagine there are no countries, right? So then, because when you listen to songs like that, I can't say that we all agree. I can't say I agree 100% with everything, every song that John Lennon sang, but I kind of like that, say, imagine there are no countries, because really countries were not there a million years ago or more, that all these things were created, and that when we pass away, when we die, you don't, everyone dies equally, right? Does it make sense? That it's not, yeah, it's not as if the death that an American dies is different from the death that a Canadian dies. It's the same death, right? So we live the same life and we die the same death. So why are we so worked up on the idea that this place belongs to me, or this place belongs to us, and then ostracize other people that are just trying to find a life for themselves? Okay, so that's the part of the introduction. The work really does help, because I get to meet with people like yourselves, college students, and like this thing that happened with PBS, trying to find common ground. I think especially now, because not only are many people living in fear, and I think I'm right when I say this, that a lot of things are just confusing to people now, because the values that you have, the things that you think about being kind to people, are just no longer there. It's as if these things are evaporating, right in front of us. So, but there's hope, and the hope is in, what we are talking about, maybe sometimes our attitude towards things that belong or do not belong to us. I'm going to end this the short sermon, hopefully, with going back to the story of the Fireflies, and then maybe we can think and reflect about it. As I said, the painting is the inspiration for this book that was published by Scholastic, and the original book itself is this, My Fireflies. You will see where I wrote it. Taylor helped me to edit it, and so all of the illustrations with the original story. The part I didn't mention was that night, the whole thing happened just within a period of 15 minutes or so. So, but I remember it so vividly, because my dad was always the very busy type. And when I told him that, Daddy, look, fireflies, he literally stopped the car, and that he didn't consider that I was just too little. He stopped the car for me and then reversed it back to where I saw the cluster of fireflies. We came out of the car. He removed a transparent jar from the trunk of the car and gave it to me and said, go ahead, catch all the fireflies you want. As a boy who loves fireflies, that's like heaven, because not only did my dad allow me to catch those fireflies, he was helping me to catch them. So we went into the bush together, and this man that is the mayor of the town, that's always busy, that he just, for those few minutes, he became like a child himself. And it made me feel as if what I love to do was really important, that maybe catching fireflies was actually going to help him to be a better mayor or something like that. So I was overjoyed and running around, catching all the fireflies. And as you know, how the story ended, after catching all those fireflies, Dad called me, and so he held my hand, and he knew I loved them a lot. So I think it was in an attempt to uh, English word pacify, to kind of help me not to be too sad about what he was about to make me do, that he came up with that thing that, in the middle of the night, when we all go to sleep, fireflies turn into stars. So for Dad, usually whenever he told a lot of stories, and they were mostly fabulous stories. So they weren't true. But if he had told me that story at home, so my mom was the one that usually burst his bubble. So mom will sometimes say that that's not true, but there was no mom to protect me that night. So it was just me and him. And so once he said it, I kept looking at the stars of the night sky and the transparent jar with the fireflies in my hand. They both twinkled. So it made complete sense to me that these fireflies end up becoming these stars, in the night skies. And I remember I was just fascinated by that. And, that say, yep, that's what becomes the stars. So for many nights after, actually, what this did to me was, until I got to middle school. So this thing happened when I was about 6.5 years of age. And until I got to middle school, I actually believed that fireflies turned into stars. So anytime I saw fireflies, what I tried to do was I tried to push them up so that they would become stars quickly. Yes, parents love it when you believe their stories for that long, right? So even Dad himself, he laughed when in middle school I was arguing with the geography teacher that the sun is not a star, that fireflies turn into stars. You can imagine that. So it's now I do appreciate it a lot, because I know that the exact thing that my dad was trying to teach me that night was that if I love anything as much as I love those fireflies, the best thing is to let it be free. Whether it's a loved one that passes away, we never want that to happen. That's why in medicine, we have modern miracles that can keep the heart beating, even if body functions are shutting down. That is part of love. But the greater part of love is to understand too that, it's a circle, that there are times that you have to let go, because the memories of those people turn around to become the bright light that illuminate our path. Parents never want children to go away too far, like to study or to work. Even parents of kindergartners, they don't, sometimes it's difficult to let those little kids leave home and go to school. But they know too that no matter how much you love your child, there is a time that you have to let the child go, go to school or go and do other things. Otherwise, they will never become the stars they are meant to be, to go to college, to go to other countries, to do things. And for me, that's the same, that the more difficult aspect of my work as an ambassador is that I get to meet wonderful people like you, and it always brings back the memory of that night. I feel like everyone I meet here, you become like those fireflies in my life over 40 years ago. In a few minutes, I have to let you go. I never liked that part, both as an artist and as a human being. I just don't like it. I tend to I'm the clingy type. I want to know everything about everyone I meet and spend time with them and, have them at my home and vice versa. But we can't always do that. What we can do is to understand that love is not something that we talk about. It's action. It's an action word that if we share the experiences that we have right this morning, this experience, if we go out to the world and love people, actually love people, not just talk about it, that way we are making stars out of the fireflies in our lives. And I want to talk to that sometimes this thing, it comes up in ways of things that happen to us, like even sicknesses or diseases. That as a person that believes in miracles, I know it's not always easy because a lot of times, even health issues for us are physical things. But I also know that our bodies have a way of replacing themselves. What is it? Cells, right? So that the cells in our bodies, they have a way of replacing themselves. They renew themselves. So that looking at that story, that there are some cells that we have to let go and you become something new completely, that you let these ones go and the brighter cells will come to replace you. It's just a question of love and hope, that if we know that these things can happen and we practice well, the things that can make it happen, it really does. And, be it cancer cells, be it measles cells, any kind of disease cells, I want you to know that you can always, always replace it by so the last thing is this model here. Okay, so this we brought this model. I had asked Brian, because part of the PBS documentaries to talk is to focus a little bit about this civic center that I'm hoping to build. So I am an architect by training. And after having done a lot of shows around the country and, doing art therapy with veterans and many hospitals across the country, I realized too that, I need a home for what I try to share with the world. And so during the Bucknell residency, which is an ongoing thing, I got to find out that the Native American word Susquehanna, unbelievable, but Susquehanna actually means oyster river. And so while we were there, because it was a grant that was given me and two other scientists by the National Science Foundation to study fireflies because of this story, just their communication and all, that the river that you call the Susquehanna River, that is really what it is, because in the olden days, at the zenith of it, or around where Louisburg is or something, that they used to collect the shells of oysters. And so you have a mound, and that this is why it's called Susquehanna. The design comprises a firefly and an oyster for that reason. So it is the most Pennsylvania thing that is possible in design, combining these two naturally existing creatures. And so you can take a closer look at it. The shell is going to be a theater that will be almost 2,000 seated theater. And my musical, which is done in front of a much larger painting than the one you saw. It's about 100-foot long painting. that painting will be shown at the Peckville Assemblies of God Church. Please, you are welcome to. It's not. It's a concert to display art. So please, everyone is welcome to come. I think we have some of the flyers there, but that's why the design is like that. Literally, I'm thinking about a place where people can come into and get renewed, just as the oyster makes pearls out of irritations that enters its shell. So that's the white, the in original, the one in front there, the tower is the butt of the firefly that lights up. So that's why all the lights there, you'll be able to see more of it in the posters we have there, the atrium, and then the farmers market, the entrance on around the geodesic dome is the farmers markets part, for produce and other things like that. Anyway, it's a design that has won the National Institute of Architects award for being most original and structurally sound. So just look at it, and if you are inclined to, apart from the state grant from the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, I know that I need a lot of help in order to be able to put the structure up. It will be located along the Susquehanna River Basin. So please feel free to support. We have the QR code for the GoFundMe. So I'm starting a GoFundMe apart from other funding sources. And if you purchase any print today, it helps to support that as well. And feel free to ask any questions that you may have. I think that's that's it for the. Are there any general questions before I step off? Yes.
We'll get a coffee hour afterwards and people can ask.
Thank you so much. I love coffee hour like that. Well, whatever time it is, such a blessing. Thank you all. Thank you all so much again. I really do appreciate being able to share with you today, and I pray that all your sorrows may be turned to joy, and that the divine joy may rest in your heart in all that you do. And I pray for healing for everyone that needs healing here. And I pray for the replacement of bad cells with good cells. Okay? All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.